freedom of speech has never been an absolute. It's always been something that's been denied a lot of people with morals and ethics. If you were a Muslim and you opposed the build up to the Iraq War, or you supported the Palestinians, or you didn't like the Islamophobia that was just rampant conversation, you were very easily targeted, sidelined, marginalised, and your voice was reduced. You were never given the same platforms as some of the more stringent Islamophobic voices out there, Nigel Farage being one, and Melanie Phillips being another. If you were left wing and you wanted an alternative view, you were painted as some sort of crazy lunatic. Once again, your freedom of speech, your freedom of expression was really curtailed by what aperture you could get your voice through. And if you were Jewish and you opposed what Palestine was doing, or you opposed the apartheid state or a Jewish supremacy, you were called self-hating. So there was ways of controlling freedom of speech, but it also manifested itself by freedom of speech as an absolute being challenged by people like the Dixie Chicks. And they were the biggest country band in America, bar none, in the early 2000s. And in the build-up to the Iraq War, they opposed that, and they lost their contract, they lost their airtime, they lost their revenue, they lost their livelihood. They were absolutely destroyed for opposing the Iraq War and the War on Terror. Their freedom of speech was not respected or protected, and nobody stood up and stood with them. They were isolated. And that same thing happened to Ken Livingstone in the UK, the former Mayor of London, when he said, and quite rightly, and there's information, it's historical fact, Jewish Zionists promoted and funded the early stages of the Nazi Party, and he brought the receipts. But once again, he was vilified. He didn't have the right to speak up. He didn't have the access to power or the media to be able to fight back. And once again, they destroyed his career, took his media, and turned him into a pariah. This has been going on across continents, across countries for decades, where freedom of speech has never really been protected, but they talk about it as if it is. But what it's doing now is it's eating its own. Jimmy Kimmel isn't particularly funny. I don't think any setup that he does, the joke can't be predicted. But he used Charlie Kirk's own words to prove a point. And that point's been proven on TikTok about 1,000 times every hour on the hour, by lots of other people with much more creative content than Jimmy Kimmel. But why stand with Jimmy Kimmel on this is because I believe in the principle. We believe in the principle. We believe that we have the right to be heard, that we protect the voiceless and the dispossessed. When the powerful don't like what you're saying, they'll hang you out to dry. And this is not the first time, it's just a very public way of doing it. So we stand by the principle, if not the man. And by standing by that principle, we are people who believe. And we have principles, and we have morals, and we have integrity. We're not fair weather friends. So we stand on these principles.